Welcome to the CMA Ontario Road to Independence virtual sessions. These sessions are presented by Slate Music with the support of Ontario Creates. We're thrilled to have you here and excited about the incredible conversations we have lined up for you. We'll be sharing our best tips on career development, songwriting, publishing, and so much more. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe, share with a friend, and hit that like button. Thanks for watching.
Welcome to a very special session sponsored by the CMA Ontario as we take a look at different aspects of the music industry as it relates to some of the artists and personalities that are in the industry. And this is one of several sessions that's going to deal with, specifically on this one, surviving the unexpected, tales from the pandemic. I'm your host, Randy Owen, and we'll be chatting with some very special guests. Singer-songwriter Ethridge, who burst onto the scene a few years ago, with a song called Liquor's Calling the Shots. I still have the shot glass for that, by the way. So that's pretty awesome. And since then, a lot has happened in his career. It's taken him all over North America. He's gotten married and he's going to be a dad-to-be. And with him is his wife, Kalsey Kulyk, who, besides being a talented singer-songwriter originally from Saskatchewan, again, she's been all over the place. And one of the things that impresses me about all her talents that really stands out for me is her guitar playing. She's a wicked guitar player. Kalsey, welcome. Eric, welcome.
Wow.
Thank you.
And you're all expecting to be first-time parents real soon. And hopefully by the time some people see this, the baby might have already come. But congratulations and best wishes.
Thank you.
We'll talk more about that a little bit later on because that's very important. But I want to introduce our other special guest, gentleman I've known for decades. I can't believe it's been that long.
Yeah.
Quite a few. Talented producer who's known for producing some of the biggest stars in the industry, like Michelle Wright, Terry Clark, Dean Brody, of which he's part of Dean Brody's band, the Brodeo, and so many others, including Jamie Warren, Jason McCoy. He's toured with them back earlier in his career. Besides being one of the most sought-after producers in the industry, he also is a talented musician, plays guitar, banjo, and anything else you kind of put in his lap or hands, he'll play it. And to make it all even worse, he's one of the nicest guys to walk the surface of this planet, Jason Barry.
Thank you, Randy. That's kind.
Hey, man. No, it's the truth. And that's why I say stuff like that. It's the truth. So great to have you guys all on here. And again, for the next several minutes, we're going to talk about the pandemic. First of all, I want to ask each of you, and perhaps we'll start with Eric. Where were you when you first heard that this pandemic thing was really getting serious? And what were you doing? You remember?
Yeah. Well, when I first heard about it, I was in Nashville. When it's really started getting serious, I was on Gordon bus in Manitoba, and we were on tour. It was Andrew Hyde, Jess Muskaloo, Corey Marquardt, Ghost Boy, Jojo Mason, and myself and Gord Bamford all on tour. And we had 30 dates booked, and I think on the third date, that's when everything canceled and shut down. So we met. Kalsey and her grandmother were in Nashville. We met in Ontario actually, and waited out those first few weeks there. It was something. Crazy times.
Yeah, definitely. And Kalsey, like you were down in Nashville at the time too.
Yeah.
What do you remember most about it when it first hit?
It was just really scary. It kind of felt almost surreal, because my grandma and I were down in Nashville. We were playing a ton of shows, and Eric just kept on texting saying, you might have to come back up to Canada. You might have to, this is going to be really bad. And I just didn't really believe him, I was like, he went out and bought Lysol wipes and toilet paper before he left for a tour.
Yeah.
And I was like, what are you doing with all this stuff? Why do you keep on, we probably have like a ton of toilet paper here. But it was crazy. So he called me, said, they're gonna, close the borders soon. You guys should drive up. So we did. And then my stepdad called me. My grandma really didn't want to leave Nashville because she loved it there, and she's from Saskatchewan where it's really cold, right? So I finally convinced her that we had to go. And the day that we were driving up, they were closing the borders the next day. So we actually went to Ontario at our parents' house, and we quarantined there. It was so surreal. It was crazy.
And Jason, where were you?
I was making a shift actually at that time. I was in Ontario half the time, and in New Brunswick the rest. I kind of migrated back to be with my family and, you know, spend more time with my mom and stuff. And I was in Toronto when it sort of really got, you know, kind of serious. Everybody was like, they're going to shut down flights. And I was going to do a gig with Dean Brody. Just he and I were going to do a gig. And then we ended up canceling the gig, and I flew out. I got an earlier flight and flew home, and I've never been back since. It just kind of, that's when it shut down. So I've been in New Brunswick the whole time. And, you know, in the Atlantic provinces, they kind of isolated themselves. They kind of shut the borders down. So we've been fortunate with the numbers, but it's, you know, we haven't really traveled unless it was really, really necessary.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the thing I remember most was it was the week of the Junos being held, I believe, in Saskatchewan, if I'm not mistaken. Right. I think Saskatoon. And to find out, I think on the Thursday or the Friday, almost like the day before, just as people were arriving for the event, that they decided to shut down the Junos because boom, COVID was detected there in Saskatoon. And then when that hit, and when you saw some of the major league, I mean, basketball and hockey were being affected, and I just went, this is going to be serious, and it's going to be bad, and it's probably going to be a while.
Yeah.
Did any of you think that it would last this long?
Yeah, I knew it would. Yeah, at least.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's well, just based on like the science behind it, because like coming from my chiropractic background, I kind of had an idea as to how pandemics work. This was not news to me when this, like, well, it was and it wasn't. Like the scientific community had been expecting this for 30 or 40 years, roughly. So when it did actually happen, and it was starting to break out across the world, it kind of was all based. The timeline's all really based on how long it's going to take to develop, manufacture, distribute an effective vaccine, right? And so at the time, it was relatively like 18 months. So we're approaching that now. And then there's a lot of like logistical barriers that we still got to go through here to get the world on track. So I wasn't surprised. And I said that to you, like, I'm like, this could be a 24 to 36 month ordeal. Hopefully not, but it could be that long. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
No, I was going to ask you, like, how long do you think it might last, and when are we going to get out of it?
I think based on, like, I mean, you know, I'll give you guys a chance to answer as well. I think we're doing pretty good right now. I mean, like, considering, like, first of all, we got a vaccine out faster than anybody thought, which was really good. So it was under a year to develop that. I mean, the technology for mRNA has been out for a long time, but to have it out and distributed billions, or I guess, well, hundreds of millions of vaccines, that's pretty good. I mean, it's never been done in human history. That being said, the other factor that we're dealing with right now is these variants of concern, which is inevitable. Like that's going to happen. But then there's also a lot of inequality for third world countries. The countries that are getting the vaccines are the first world countries, the ones that produce it and can afford it. But then you're going to have these third world countries that are going to have huge outbreaks, which, you know, we got to get them vaccines as well, or this could continue to mutate and actually then spread back to us. So that's why it's such a logistical problem in that sense.
And for those who aren't familiar, I guess, with the mutations and stuff like that, I guess it's kind of like the flu shot every year. It's a different shot that you get every year because it's a different virus every year, even though it's still the flu, right?
Yeah. Yes. They're just variants. Like, yes, and so the vaccines are partially effective or like decently effective against them still. The whole point is just not to let them be the dominant strain, which they are now. But it's, you know, like variants are going to pop up everywhere. There's been over 4,000 variants of coronavirus since it started. And there's only like 3 or 4 that are of major concern right now. But it's going to, the more that it has a chance to spread, the more opportunity there is to create a more aggressive variant. So that's why they're so, why they were so adamant about locking down, about wearing masks, about getting vaccinated, all those things. It's just the epidemiology and science behind it is all it is, really. But
I feel weird being the only one that does have my mask with me. But
I was going to wear it when we tried.
Well, thanks for that background. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I want to ask each of you, when it did hit, and once you realized how serious this was going to be, how did you think it was going to affect your careers and what you were doing? We'll start with Jason and go back around.
It's funny. I was talking to my wife about this I'm a bit of an introvert anyhow, so I was maybe tailor-made for a pandemic, but I knew that it was going to change the session world for us considerably. And I just, built this studio here. So, it just kind of changed how we do sessions, basically. So there's no more guys coming in for a while. There was no, 8 guys playing off the floor and all that stuff. That kind of all shut down for us. But then sorry, go ahead.
No, but technology has kind of helped in a way that you can now do, amazing things. Just thanks to the internet. I mean, with anybody around the world, you want to get on your sessions now. I mean, it's opened up that whole world, really, hasn't it?
Yeah, and it's always been there. We always trickled those sessions. We might hire a guitar person we really like somewhere else in the world, but since the pandemic, obviously, it's become more of a common thing now. We kind of start the sessions, build them, and then send them off and get them back and put them back together. Or we can remote session now. People really got aggressive with trying to find a way to be in the room with the artist or a musician. And so it's come around. It's kind of pushed the technology faster than it was actually happening, just because we were able to be together and do it the old fashioned way. So nobody really relied on it that much, except for the TV industry. They always kind of did it, with movie stars and stuff, but it kind of popped into our world too. But it's been great. Honestly, the workflow has stayed relatively the same for me. I can't speak for everybody else, but I do a variety of things. I'm in the film world and the music world, so there's always stuff happening. But it's been a challenge, but it's been kind of enlightening. You kind of go, hey, we can do this, and we can do a lot of things, and you can work with people you love all over the world, which is great.
Kalsey?
Yeah, I mean, I think when everything first happened, I think I was a little depressed, pretty depressed, because, we had to because of it. And you work so hard your whole career, your whole life, being in the music industry, to be able to get to Nashville. And, leaving Nashville was probably one of the hardest things emotionally I'll ever have to do. I just wanted to stay there because I just loved that city. And then, not being able to play shows, that I think as an artist and a songwriter, you really thrive off of being able to do your passion and being able to perform for others and just have that connection with the people that listen to your music. So, besides financially, it was a very hard blow. It was really hard to wrap my head around it. But, luckily, the music community pulls together in different ways. And, whether it was drive-through shows or really whatever we were able to do, we were lucky enough that we got to start doing the van life and do those small shows that we did. And that was a huge help. But yeah, definitely to go from doing things the way that you're used to doing them to really not doing them much at all was really hard.
Eric?
Yeah, it was hard too when just having both of us be in pretty much the same position where because we both are signed artists, the majority of our income comes from live shows, really. So when we lost I was on a 30-date arena tour. I just envision and be like, I want to play arenas. That's what I want to do. I want to be on an arena tour. So I'm on my very first arena tour. 3 dates in, it's canceled. And I knew it wasn't coming back. I knew it wasn't. It was supposed to be 60 dates, and I was like, we're done. That was tough to swallow. And then, so to have both of us kind of go, and then leaving Nashville was tough because I had just signed the record deal, moved to Nashville for a year. I loved it there. We were really enjoying it. But we knew I knew that this was going to be bad down there, especially, and not having healthcare down there. We don't want to be caught down there without healthcare or being able to play shows. And so, it was a tough pill to swallow at first.
Yeah.
But we adapted and we tried to make the best of it. So
yeah, the thing about you, and I've noticed this watching your career, is how hard you work at it. I mean, I've watched you rehearse shows and plan things. I mean, I know there's got to be room for spontaneity when it happens, but you work awfully hard at planning not only your shows but your career. So I know how hard. I know how hard you've worked at it. I've seen it firsthand backstage and things like that. So I mean, to see all that just poof. And Kalsey, you mentioned something. You mentioned about depression. If you two weren't married by that time, I'm sure you must have relied on each other to help get over some of the depression that a lot of people have felt because of this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, it's hard, but it's also comforting at the same time to be able to have somebody who's also in the music industry and has the same dreams and passions and goals and drive as you do. So, there were definitely points where we were both super low, but luckily we have a great support system. Our family is super awesome, and they really, I mean, my family's, been standing behind my back since I was 3 years old, starting to sing. So it's, they would kind of snap us out of it. They'd listen to us vent, and then they'd help us try to look at it from a different angle. But when, one of us was down and the other one wasn't, then we were good at picking each other up. But it definitely, we were able to relate really well to each other, which was good.
Perfect. Jason, what was your biggest concern as we started to get deeper into this, and what were some of your fears?
I think the biggest ones were the live shows. You kind of, that's a big part of the artist income and sort of their drive to be artists. So I was a little worried about what would happen to them being shut down. I was worried about people I work with personally. I just know that they tend to be more open and want to be with other people, and they thrive off that kind of interaction, and it helps them go from day to day. So I noticed it with Dean and a few of the artists that I work with, that it really shocked them, that it was almost like they couldn't believe it. It was like, okay, we're going to be good next month. We should be next month. We'll be able to do this. And it seemed like every 2 months I would hear somebody say, hey, in a few weeks, we're going to be able to do this again. And I think they just didn't believe it was happening. So it was that was a shocker. That was a big one for me. And then the live gig shut down and no traveling and all that kind of stuff for us. That's basically it. The session stuff, I was happy to see everybody start to reach out and use all the different talent that was available, whether it be in Nashville or Canada. There's so much talent around. So I think that kind of worked out okay for a lot of the session guys that would only work in certain regions. It kind of helped them in a way, but it hurt the artist. So it was kind of it's a tricky situation, but I think personally, honestly, and it's kind of weird for me because I'm in a different story. I kind of came back to my hometown to kind of be close to my family and all that stuff. So it was more of a time. It was almost like free time again. Like I kind of was able to see them. And luckily here, it was a little different than elsewhere in Canada. So we were still able to be together and, within reason, like you were still able to hang out with your family and stuff. So it wasn't as tough. And then my wife's parents moved here, so that made it a lot nicer too. So now we're all kind of together. And so it was kind of a positive in a way. It brought us, together. And I'm sure, Eric, you guys probably know that you just kind of really appreciate your family, maybe a touch more or you just realize how powerful they are as a collective, and you just appreciate them a little more when you're able to be around them and maybe forced to be around them as much.
Didn't your wife finish going to university, was it?
Yeah, when we came back, she always wanted to be a music teacher in the school system. And then we started having children, and she basically babysat us and looked after the Barrytone business. And so she's been at home for about maybe close to 15 years, but she really wanted to be a teacher. That was her dream before, we had a family. And so she decided she was going to go back. And so she did. And she's a trooper. She did it like for 2 years solid and, looked after us And she looked after the kids on her own for about a year while going to university because I was still in Ontario. So she's a champion. So she did it. She got a 4.0. She like nailed it, and she got a gig. She ended up working in a little high school here and close by. And so it's been a positive for her too. She's, although, you know, it's never positive when you're in a pandemic, you know,
Right.
being a teacher, trying to get through that, like their job is really complicated, but you know, she's happy that she's got her career going, which is a positive.
Did she graduate before or during the pandemic?
She graduated at the beginning of the pandemic. So that year, they didn't have her graduation yet or any of that stuff. They didn't have the ceremony or anything. So she felt, I know she was really down about that but I think they plan on having it once we're all able to do that again. So
I guess there's no real answer to this one because it's one of those what if things. But what if, while that part of your family and your wife was out in New Brunswick at the time, you were in Ontario. What if if you had been stuck in Ontario and couldn't get out there?
it was really close. Yeah, it was really close. They were shutting down the airport the next day when I left Ontario, and I still had a house and everything there, but all my family was here and we had a house here. So I left it. I just kind of left it all there. And luckily I have beautiful friends there that looked after it. And, you know, it was pretty inconvenient for them, but it worked out great for us as a family here.
While at the same time, I'm hearing some great positive stories about being with your family and stuff like that. Do you also have any fears about them because of the pandemic?
Out there or here?
Right where you are right now.
Yeah, of course, you know, we're all worried that our family might get sick or somebody you love is affected, you know, in a negative way. But I haven't really been that worried about it because it's a little bit of a different feeling here compared to the rest of the country. And I'm almost embarrassed to say it. I hate talking about it. I never talk about it online because I watch my friends struggle and I'm like, oh man, I wish I could pull them here and just let them run free for a little while without their mask and stuff and just forget it for a minute, you know?
Jason Barry's farm with all these little musicians and artists running around in the backyard on the farm.
I would gladly do it, you know, and I've told a bunch, like, you know, lots of conversations with a lot of my friends who are musicians and who are struggling. And I said, you're welcome to come here and stay, but you know, they have their families there. And when you come here, you have to hang out for 2 weeks. You can't just do whatever you like. So it's going to be tough.
Eric and Kalsey, you guys were on you mentioned this earlier, the van tour. I remember watching you and following you guys online about that. And I thought, what a cool thing to do. But at the same time, I mean, there was this pandemic happening and things like that. And I'm just curious, what were your concerns when you were out on the road like that?
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't really have too many concerns. We made sure everybody was following the guidelines. And if we never had the experience where like people weren't following the guidelines, there was social distancing. We had a table for where we had our merch and our CDs, and people had to stand back, and we literally did socially distanced selfies, and we played on the roof of the van, so people couldn't even get to us really if they wanted to, but everybody was super respectful, and we just had a blast. It was awesome. There was no negative to say. The only thing is that, you know, we started out in Alberta, BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan. And then once we got to Ontario, we played maybe 1 or 2 shows. And that's when they were allowing 100 people outside. And then so we had a ton of shows booked in Ontario. How many did we have?
Oh, I don't know. Like it was like within that week period, a couple week period, there's probably like 6 or 7 shows booked. I feel like I can't remember.
I feel like we had like 20.
Yeah, I don't even. Yeah, something crazy.
It was pretty crazy, anyways, and we all of them canceled. Like we only did like 4 shows, and so then we came back to Alberta because Alberta still had gatherings. But then it got too cold out, so it was snowing during one of the gigs that we were playing up in Alberta, Slave Lake, Alberta, super north, and it was freezing.
It's crazy. But
honestly, it was the best way to spend the pandemic. Like you know, it was. I'm so glad that we did it because it was just awesome.
Do you still have the van?
No, we sold the van. We found out we got, well, in December, we found out we were pregnant. And we kind of just made a game time decision. So again, like looking at, okay, first of all, we're not raising a baby in a van. We can just
That's fair, no.
you know, it's not just like, honey, you don't worry about it. Like we'll have some stability. But then also just looking at it was getting to the point too with all the gig cancellations. Like there's only so much you can control when it comes to making business decisions. There's only you have to look at what you can control. But then with this situation, you know, I thought we did pretty good. Like we built this van, we didn't get out quite. We were hoping to have it out in June or July. Got out in August, which you know we still put on I think 20 shows across Canada within a matter of 6 weeks, and we did a full radio tour at the same time. We were in a race against the weather, really, but you know, it got to the point where it's like, you know, these gatherings the gathering restrictions outside. It's going to vary province to province. Again, numbers were getting worse in the second wave, and then now even like all these things kind of. And then we got pregnant. And we're like, okay, you know what, we need to sell the van and regroup. And so that's what we did. And we're glad we did, because I mean, now we're into May. You're still not, like, especially in Alberta and Ontario, you're still not having people over. Like, you know, they're into lockdown. So we're really happy we made that decision.
Yeah.
We would have loved to keep it, but it would have just been sitting in the driveway, really. Which is, you know, it's better not to have that and do something else. So, yeah, you know, it was a good experience. The way we look at it, it's like we had some really cool memories with it. Hanging out in the mountains and stuff was cool while we had the chance to, and we built this thing together. It was our first like major project as like a couple. So, you know, it was interesting. Like, you know, we joke that, like, you know, not many people go through all these things in their first year of marriage. They're like,
First couple months, actually.
First couple months, like pandemic, lose both your careers, and then you move into a van down by the river, and then you have a baby, and it's like.
It's all uphill.
I really want to be around 30. I want to be around 30 years from now when you talk to your son and he comes up to you and, hey, Dad, hey, Mom, tell me about when I was born in the middle of was it a pandemic?
Yeah, it's insane.
That's going to be awesome.
Yeah,
it's awesome. And it's a little bit insane when you think about it. But yeah, and that's probably going to happen like 30 years from now. It's like, tell me about that time when the pandemic happened.
We lived in a van.
What are some of the positives you've got?
What's that?
What are some of the positives you've got? What are some of the positives you've gotten during this whole ordeal? I mean, obviously spending so much time together, you probably wouldn't have if the pandemic hadn't happened. But what are some of the other things too, personally and professionally? I mean, have you become more proficient at what you do with guitar playing and songwriting, or what?
Do you want to go first?
Okay.
Yeah, lots of positives to go for sure. Like you said, actually, that was huge. We were looking right when we got married, and the Gord Bamford tour was happening. We were like, okay, I'll see you in 6 weeks. And like, we were just, you know, we didn't know, we just got married. We didn't know when we were going to see each other. It was going to be a really hectic year. Went from that to seeing each other all day, every day. And, you know, in your first year of marriage, if you're with somebody 24/7, you're going to know real quick whether or not that marriage relationship's going to work. And I think we passed that test pretty good, right? So she hasn't killed me yet, so that's good. I'm a very lucky guy. I'm the luckiest man in the world. I shifted gears for me personally to I decided to take this time to learn some skills. So I wanted to learn some things that I could use long-term for music that I wouldn't need to pay people for. So one thing I'm working on becoming just working on recording and producing. Not that I'm by any means like Jason Barry, not even close.
It's easy.
But I'm learning how to use the technology. And then the bigger thing is I've been really getting into videography and photography. So we've been putting out a series of videos for Kalsey, actually, so I've been doing all the video work for that and audio production. So that's something I feel that we could use long term, just for our careers, no matter what happens with, you know, radio or record deals or whatever, or, you know, we have the means to record and produce ourselves if we need to. And that was kind of, you know, after this all settles down and gets back to normal, we'll have those skills. So that was kind of my focus for the last 14 months or whatever. But.
Amazing. That's great. You'll always use that in your career, right? Like you'll always need content, and you'll always need to do at least good demos for sessions and stuff. So
it's expensive, so
It is.
expensive. It adds up, as you know, like it adds up over time, like crazy. So
good for you. That's great. You're paying yourself to be home with your lovely wife and your new baby.
Exactly. Yeah. So
that's good.
Cool. Kalsey, what about you? What particular talents have you developed while the pandemic has been going on that you didn't explore before?
I really got back to trying to write by myself. I did that a lot more because I really, in Nashville, you're always writing with other people. And I started out writing by myself. So, I really kind of missed that. So I wrote a bunch of songs by myself, really for myself or for anyone else, because I just love to do it. But I think actually the most important thing that I got from this experience is, I've always lived in the States, like ever since I was 19, and I've always missed out on, family things. And I've really had the amazing opportunity to be able to spend time with family, which I've been missing for the last 10 years. So that's really just what I've been focusing on, is being able to spend time with family and really just take that time that I've never really gotten to take before.
Do you think we probably took that time for granted, all of us?
Oh yeah.
Jason?
You mean family time, or do you mean?
Oh, yeah. I mean, just a lot of the little things in life that, we're so obsessed, and it's the way society is. I mean, we're all obsessed with our careers and what we're doing in our businesses and stuff like that. That, a lot of little things like, the birth of a baby is huge. But to spend so much time with family that you hadn't had before, it's given you that opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think it's if there's ever been a positive to this event, it's got to be that. I think just the connection you get with your family, and I think a lot of people are starting to realize the little things maybe aren't as important. And I know everyone must had that epiphany at some point where they're like, why did I ever worry about that stupid stuff?
Right.
Like, why did I obsess about it? Maybe I should and hopefully that helps people at the end of all of this, when they are able to do what they did previously, to kind of make, better themselves that way. They're just able to relax on those little things and just really focus on their amazing abilities and talents. I think, I'm sure, like a guy like Eric, there's so much pressure on presence, and, it's not just about being a great talent. There was so much pressure on being present on social media and out at all these functions and ever present, you put so much pressure on yourself. And I think people now have realized, like, hey, if I go away for a couple of days and hang out with my, mom or my wife, and I come back 2 days later, it's just like it's like a great friendship. You leave it for a little while, you come back, it's right where you left off. But I think when you're the personality or the, sort of the artist, say, then I think the second you walk away from that stuff, you start feeling like your career's over. I think all artists and personalities are like, oh my God, it's the best day ever. And then 2 hours later, it's like, I think this is it. This is probably the end of my career. And I watched so many of my friends do that. It's okay to just kind of go, walk away for 2 days, post something a couple days later, and everybody will be there. Everybody who loved you before will love you when you come back. Right. So I think hopefully a lot of people have realized it's okay not to be, I'm here, I'm right here,
And I want to get back to you, Jason, too, about the question I asked Kalsey and Eric about stuff that you've been doing that you normally wouldn't do in a routine. Like have you done anything different, either professionally or personally, that's to occupy your time or to broaden your horizons as a person or a musician or whatever during the pandemic?
I think so. I've always been I'm a little bit of a nerd. I like to learn things or read things and try things. So technology wise, I've jumped over a bunch of hurdles, and I started working in an atmosphere, which is really, it's like a new mixing technology. It's like a 3-dimensional technology. And I've been doing this thing for the Netflix with Brian May and Sammy Hagar and, you know, Joe Walsh and all these famous guys. And we're building this concert for Netflix, which is all done in Atmos. So, you know, I got a chance to work on my nerdy, you know, engineering stuff. And then, you know, my guitar playing, I kind of picked up a couple of instruments that I've always wanted, and I had the opportunity to try them on sessions where there wasn't 10 guys in the room. So if it took me 2 hours to get a pass, it was okay. So I did it and got better at those instruments that I might've been just average at. So that was nice. And on a personal level, I kind of, I think I've grown quite a bit. I think I've learned that, and maybe to a fault, maybe to a positive, I'm putting less pressure on the social aspect of my business and just hoping that maybe my talent will push through. And if I'm not talented enough, then that's okay. I've realized that it's going to be okay. You know, either way, I'll do what I do. But on a personal level, I started doing weird stuff. Like I bought a tractor and I built a garden back here. So I literally like kind of tried my hand at farming and all these weird little things. And I put a wood stove in our house and started, you know, splitting wood because I didn't want to get, you know, I couldn't go to the gym anymore. And I was always kind of an active guy that way. So I thought, well, I need to keep my physical level up. So I started doing more outdoorsy style things, you know, built a racetrack for my son for his motorcycle out here. And so just fun stuff like that in between the sessions and guitar stuff.
So what are you growing in the garden?
Just regular stuff, you know, all the regular vegetable stuff. So cucumbers, potatoes, corn, radish, yellow beans, green beans, beets. I'm getting embarrassed. I actually love it. I think it's a beautiful thing, but again, I'm a nerd. It's like, it's incredible that you can do this and sustain that, you know, and it takes a lot of care. Like I have so much respect for those guys because it only takes one wrong move and that's it, you know?
Yeah. I was just going to mention that too. I mean, it's amazing how much hard work goes into it, and you got to keep at it, and it's amazing. I mean,
but it's been fun for the kids. Like I think it's helped them a lot. They joined me doing it, and so they're enjoying the whole process too. So it's kind of been a fun family thing. All of that stuff.
But kids and Eric and Kalsey, you should take note. Kids love to play in dirt, so there you go.
That's right.
We're going to wrap this up, I think, soon in a couple of minutes, but I want to ask you, what are you most looking forward to once this is over, Eric?
Yeah, I am most looking forward to, I think, like, because I mean, I'm an extrovert, and I love like meeting people and performing again. I think that's the thing I miss most, is just being on stage and connecting with people through music. And you know, that would be the thing I'm most excited to get back to.
It's amazing to me how interactive, I mean, things are with the internet and stuff like that, but it still does not replace the actual physical presence of being in the physical presence of an audience, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
For sure.
No,
Absolutely.
no,
The live streams don't replace what the live music brings for people, you know, and so I think that's probably the thing I'm most excited about, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, last week I was watching Jason Aldean performing live and all that sort of stuff, and I'm thinking, okay, this is nice, but I mean, I would rather be there.
Yeah.
You know, kind of thing. Kalsey, what about you?
Same thing. I can't wait to
Yeah.
play shows and just be able to do what we did previously, even just like, you know, just go to a restaurant and not be
Oh.
paranoid the whole time, you know.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
And you know, just being able to do music obviously is a big one in person, because that'll be I'll probably cry after.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to be the only one either when that happens. The main thing I'm looking forward to is not eating my own cooking. Jason, what about you? What's the thing you're most looking forward to when this is over?
Man, I'm looking forward to getting on the plane, getting off the plane, and getting on the tour bus, putting all my stuff in the bay, getting on the tour bus, going to our first show with Dean and the guys, having a shot of whiskey, and getting out on that stage and tear it up. I'm so looking forward to that. it's been 18 months, and you kind of get, when you're in it, and this is going to sound like, oh, poor guy, but when you're doing it all the time, you lose it's not as exciting anymore. You get used to it. It's like part of your routine. We used to get on a plane on the weekend, fly somewhere, play a gig, fly home, and then that was kind of regular. And then the tour, you're on the tour bus, you go to the arena, you do sound check, you go eat, you go back, do the gig. It becomes like, oh, this is what we do. But ever since this, it's like, man, did we ever take that for granted? And I think, man, look out when this thing cuts loose. Like, all these artists they're going to really give it. Like, they're going to be so happy to have that mic in their hand. Man, I can't wait to see all these shows. It's going to be amazing.
Well, Dean did a drive-in show, or a couple of them last summer around July, right?
Yeah.
So what was that like? I mean, compared to what you guys had done before, I mean, that had to be different because, like I said, I mean, the pandemic was going at the time. It was a drive-in show kind of thing. I mean, like,
well,
how different
it's
was
totally
that?
foreign, and I flew in, right? So it was very odd. So you go to the airport, they check your temperature, and asking you all these questions, and you're nervous, and then you're wearing a mask the whole time. You get there, and you get to the gig, and it's very controlled. Everybody has to do all the stuff, and it just seemed it almost like it was going to a doctor's appointment rather than a gig. And then you get on the actual stage, and everybody's got to stay apart. Like, a big part of playing music is that it's hard to explain unless you're a musician, but there's an energy that happens when the beat is happening and everybody's playing in sync. There's 3 minutes of total connection, like 3.5 minutes, where you're not thinking about anything else but what's happening, and you're multi-function. You're playing, you're listening, you're just totally in tune. And I think
it's not just a connection, but it's also an interaction with them too.
Right, and you kind of lose that when you're forced to stay apart, when you can't just bump shoulders, or the little thing in the back of your mind that says you're not allowed to don't go any closer, because if somebody takes a picture and you're too close, it'll ruin that guy's career. So it totally stifled all of that stuff. So, but I mean, it was still nice to play. It was great to hear it in the cans and interact and play with other musicians, but it's definitely not the same as, doing the arena when there's a pile of people in front of you and it's just chaos. It's amazing. Can't wait to do it again.
Last question, and again, we'll start with Eric and then Kalsey and then Jason. What's the one thing you want to impress upon other people about what we've been going through, and perhaps how you feel about the future?
Yeah, I think, well, first, a few things, but first thing that comes to mind is, I think one thing, I don't know, maybe I debate saying this or not, but one thing I think that's not an industry that's not really ever talked about in the media that got really crushed by the pandemic is the music industry. I think it's often, we hear restaurants, we hear, we hear mostly like hair salons and stuff, which did get hurt really bad, but like the music industry got annihilated. Like, it's like even like management companies in Nashville and agencies like fired 80% of their staff.
Yeah.
Artists lost 95% of the revenue for the last 18 months or more. And because of the very nature of what we do, we don't go on social media and bellyache about it or complain about it. And because it's counterproductive to what your goal is as an artist. So everyone just kind of went silent. But I guess the biggest thing I could say to people is so when shows happen again, buy all the friggin' concert tickets you can get, buy merchandise, share people's music with your friends, because that's really what is the lifeblood for artists and musicians out there, and especially session musicians as well, and players. Like the artists went down, like there's no work unless you're doing session work as a player. So I think just when this happens, like artists and musicians very, very much appreciate your support, more than for all the non-musicians out there.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool. Kalsey?
I second what Eric says, but I would add on to that for also just don't take anything that you love or who you love for granted, because my grandpa passed away in the pandemic, and I didn't get to see him. The last time I saw him was when I dropped my grandma off and driving her back from Nashville. And you know what I mean? It's those things that really just are like, man, I wished I hugged him a little tighter when I saw him last time, or something like that. And also, I mean, music, not being able to play, and you think that I guess you're kind of spoiled, because you do think that you're going to be able to get back to it in like next month or whatever. And you just never know when something you love is going to be taken away from you. So I think, don't take anything for granted either.
Sure.
Very cool. Jason?
I think, it's a different, like, that question's kind of loaded. You can address a couple of different people like Eric did. I think for the artists, I'd like to say, like, don't let yourself get down. And
That's Billy Ray Cyrus. Tell him we're busy.
Yeah. No, it's not Billy. Like, I think where you were when the pandemic started is where you'll be when it fires up again. I feel terrible for some artists. They're just so creative that it's kind of pummeled them a little bit. But, if you were a singer before, we love you. We love your voice, and do it again. Just, it's going to go right from where you left off. No one's forgotten you. It's not the end, it's okay. And then and I want to double what Eric said, like, please, anybody who came out to the shows, support us and get us back on our feet again. We all want to play for you, and we're all hoping that you want to hear us play again. So come on out and let's celebrate getting back to the way it was. The good old days.
Good old days.
Yeah, the celebration's going to be amazing.
It will be.
Guys, thank you all so much. Eric, again, congratulations on everything that's happened in your career, both professionally and personally.
Yeah.
Good luck with the baby. I know you're going to be a wonderful dad. Kalsey, I know you're going to be a wonderful mom, which is pretty cool. You gotta do one thing for me though. When the baby is born, don't talk baby talk to it. Don't go do goo goo gaga to it, that sort of stuff.
I promise that.
Yeah, you're probably already talking to the baby, right?
Yeah.
But I found, having been around babies, like nieces and nephews and my own brothers and sisters, I would not talk baby talk to them, because I thought parents and adults look silly when they do it. I would sit there and explain Einstein's theory of relativity to the baby. Now, the baby might not get it, but just to see the intensity in their eyes, like they stop and look at you like, what are you talking about, kind of thing, but they're paying attention. So don't go crazy with the baby talk. But listen, all the best. And like I said, Randy is a good name for a boy. Just saying. Congratulations. I look forward to seeing you guys soon. Jason, always a pleasure to talk to you, man.
You guys,
having been friends with you for all these decades and stuff like that, and watch what you've done with your career, it still astounds me and amazes me. And I think it couldn't have happened to a better person. So
thanks.
Keep it up and appreciate everything that you do in this business, all of you. So thank you so much, and best wishes when this thing finally breaks and we can all get back to normal, or a semblance of normal. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, good luck with the baby, guys. It's trust me, it's the greatest thing in the world. My favorite gig I do is being a dad. So you're gonna love it. And a mom. Sorry. Enjoy.
And thanks again to the Country Music Association of Ontario for putting this together. And there's more sessions coming as we get closer and closer to the 2021 award show happening in September. Fingers crossed. I know it'll happen, but it'll be pretty cool. And congratulations, everybody, once again. So thank you again to the CMA Ontario. It's been a pleasure to do this. And again, there's more sessions to come. Thanks again for taking the time to watch. And again, thanks to all our participants once again. And everybody, just stay safe and happy, man.
You too, Randy. We love you, man.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.